They put the old rules on the bulletin board for a reason. Keep people ignorant and alive. Then I found a 1954 protocol that said, bold and black, if ordnance exhibits anomalous resonance, do not attempt disposal. I read it out loud. The alarm in Bunker 12 answered me by name. A rule book doesn't call you. This one did. They put me on Depot Echo because I follow checklists without asking why. The facility sits in Nevada scrub behind chain link, blast berms, and satellites that only bother to log coordinates. On paper, my job was simple. Walk a route, log serials, check climate readings. In practice, it was flashlight arcs, lacquered wood, and the smell of oil that hangs inside concrete rooms. Some crates come with extra stamps, hold, echo. They vanish into reroutes and terse radio calls. We learned not to ask questions that invited a blank answer. Curiosity got men reassigned. On a slow July night, I found a file tucked behind a manifest in Bunker 12. Leather, edges brittle. Stamp, protocols, compromised ordnance, 1954. The paper smelled like copper and ozone. The diagrams were unusual, cross-sections with concentric dampers, sled mounting points, and a single clinical rule underlined twice. If ordnance exhibits anomalous resonance signatures, do not apply conventional mitigation. Activate echo chain. Stand clear. Do not look at the munition directly. The night sergeant's face went flat when I showed it to him. You don't handle that, he said. That file's been locked since my old man left. It isn't inventory. He refused to add more. The rules felt like a dare. I went back anyway, file in my jacket. The bunker door sealed with a breath colder than the night outside. Crates sat in precise rows. One canvas bundle had no barcode, no RFID, only a hand stamp, Echo 12. I cut the rusted wire. Under the wrap, the object wasn't cylindrical like a shell or boxy like common ordnance. It was flat, matte, pocked with tiny concentric rings. No markings, no serial. On top lay a yellowed note. Notice, compromised. Initiate echo chain. Do not disassemble. The file instructed steps. Place on a damped sled. Set a low-frequency tone for 7 minutes. Clear the perimeter. Clinical language. Precise timings. I told myself procedures existed to keep people alive. Following them seemed safer than imagining the alternative. I set up the tone generator from the kit. For 3 minutes, the bunker hummed with a thin subsonic whine. Dust hung in my lamp like thick smoke. On the 3rd minute, the object pulsed. Not light, but pressure. My molars rattled. The radio in my jacket smeared into a slow vinyl sound. A black ribbon of vapor slid from the crate vent, cold across my cheek, tasting of burned copper. When my vision returned, the concrete at my boots bore perfect, wet, concentric rings, as if the floor had been displaced. On the crate lid, in handwriting I didn't recognize, and then did, my own, 3 words. Do not look. Do not remember. I triggered the evacuation alarm and ran. By the time EOD arrived, the crate was empty, not opened, just absent. No residue, no ring marks. The manifest recorded nothing. No Echo 12. Camera footage had a cut. It showed me carrying the file to the crate, then the next frame showed me walking out empty-handed. Where the crate had been, blank concrete. That afternoon, an unsigned notice posted on the board read, "Personnel involved in unauthorized handling will be purged from depot records. Return to duty." It did not need a signature. Men nodded and returned to manifest lines. That night, the memory of the object resisted. The harder I tried to recall its shape, the more the edges smeared. Instead, a pattern came back, the rings and a rhythm that felt like a pulse. I began noticing small things, cameras angling away, hallway lights lagging a fraction of a second, a low mechanical hum beneath the HVAC. The file in my pocket had gone dull. The ink felt like cooled metal. Rule 1 of Echo Protocol is, do not assume footage tells the truth. Rule 2, once the Echo looks at you, it begins to rewrite what you saw. I had learned both in a single shift. If these containment procedures were 70 years old and still upheld, someone had tended this secret across generations. That meant containment had a history of working and of failing. I kept the file, not out of bravado, but necessity. Paper is stubborn. If the Echo is rewriting rooms and cameras, ink might be the only thing that remembers. That thought, stick to the rules so the thing sleeps, or learn the rules and keep watch, gave me a new plan. It also made the bunker feel less like storage and more like a throat waiting to be fed. The next morning, security footage showed me placing the file at the crate and then walking out empty-handed. But my pocket still held the file. If they can erase things from tape, they can erase people. Tonight, I'll try to run the protocol myself, one step further than the file says I should go.
Morning at Depot Echo always begins with the same sound. Metal gates unlatching one by one, like someone cracking a spine. But this time, I wasn't listed on the duty board. My name tag, my ID, my login credentials, all flagged inactive. That's the Army's polite way of saying, you don't exist here anymore. The only reason I knew I had existed was the file still tucked inside my locker. The same file footage claimed I never returned with. Its cover felt colder than paper should, like it was conducting something. Every time I flipped a page, a faint static prickled through my fingertips. A low, steady rhythm, almost like the hum that had filled Bunker 12. Inside the pages, new handwriting had appeared overnight. Not mine, not typewritten, precise block letters that read, Protocol Extension, Echo Chain Active. That wasn't in the manual. I tried to bring it to the sergeant, but his office was empty. No personal items, no files, no smell of stale coffee, just a space recently vacated. Even the dust outlines where his nameplate once sat were gone. It wasn't that he'd left, it was that he'd been removed. I went to the perimeter tower, the one that overlooks the old test range to the east. Through the binoculars, the sand shimmered in faint circles, like ripples in water, spaced perfectly apart, the same spacing as the rings on the object. That's when the hum returned, not loud, but localized, like someone was whispering through a power line. My comms earpiece clicked alive, though my radio was off. Do not activate. Containment maintained by omission. A voice, flat, sexless, artificial, like text read aloud by a dead man. Then silence. I yanked the battery. The hum stayed. Back in the admin building, I went through archives, decades of printed manifests, all by year, all sequential. Then I found it, 1955 to 1961, stamped Restricted, AEC Joint Storage. Every page catalogued test munitions until it didn't. The year 1957 was missing, not mislabeled, gone. Instead, one paper was jammed in the binder spine, brittle, grease-stained, handwritten. Echo incident. Do not repeat ignition protocol. Reclassification complete. Ordnance not destroyed. Relocated for passive observation. Recommend indefinite quarantine. At the bottom, a signature half-scorched but readable. LTCOL Halverson. Echo Command. He'd been dead for 60 years. That night, I walked to the bunker again. The keypad had changed to a keyhole, like time had rolled backward. When I stepped inside, everything looked older. Markings faded, warning paint chipped, the air dry with dust. But the wet rings on the floor were still there, perfectly preserved. And in the center, a single crate, identical to the one that vanished. A new label, Echo 13. I didn't touch it this time. Instead, I opened the file, and the words had changed again. Containment expands by attention. This document is now contaminated. As I read, the metal lamps above flickered in sequence, matching the cadence of my heartbeat. Then, through the flicker, I saw the walls. Not concrete, reflective, like looking through oil. Shapes moved within it, rippling inward, not outward. That's when the base siren screamed. 3 long, 2 short. Evacuation signal. I bolted for the exit, but the door slammed shut on its own. On the intercom, a new voice cut through, clipped and calm. Personnel Bravo 27 acknowledged. Protocol escalation. Observe. Do not document. The door reopened. The desert was silent again. But outside, all vehicles were gone. Only tire tracks led into the dunes and then disappeared mid-trail. When I returned to the admin building, every computer screen was black. On each one, a single white line blinked. Echo chain, phase 2 initiated. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't, because the hum wasn't in the bunker anymore. It was in the walls of my quarters, pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. Every time I blinked, faint rings shimmered behind my eyelids. And in the darkness, a voice, not through the radio, not in my ears, but in the bones of my skull, whispered, "Containment continues through you." When I woke, my uniform had a new patch sewn into the sleeve, Echo Command. I never authorized it, and when I checked the duty roster, my name was back on it, but listed under 1958. I woke up in my quarters with the taste of static in my mouth. The walls pulsed faintly, once every 3 seconds, like the heartbeat of the building itself. My uniform lay folded on the chair, pressed and perfect, except for the sleeve patch, a circular emblem I'd never seen. Echo Command. No one had access to my room. No one should have. I ran to the mirror. My reflection blinked half a second late. That delay broke something in my gut. When I turned away, the reflection didn't. I hit the hallway light switch, but the bulbs glowed on a delay too, like the entire base was buffering reality 1 second at a time. The intercom crackled,
then whispered, "Observation protocol in progress. Remain calm, operator." Operator. They'd never called me that before. The corridors were silent except for a distant vibration, the same low hum that followed me since Bunker 12. It had rhythm now, almost patterned, like a machine trying to imitate breathing. When I reached Command Ops, the door was ajar. Inside, every monitor displayed footage of the same thing, me sitting at my desk, staring straight into the camera. Except the me in the feed was wearing the Echo Command patch before I'd found it. And behind him, behind me, the wall wasn't concrete. It was water, black and still. The timestamp said 1958, 06:14. I leaned closer to the screens. The moment I whispered, "That's impossible," every feed cut to static, except one. On that last screen, the me from 1958 looked directly at the camera and said, "Containment is inheritance." Then the feed froze. Outside, the base floodlights flickered to red. A synthetic voice echoed over the PA. "Containment protocol breach. Personnel reclassification in effect. Proceed to Bunker 12. It wasn't an evacuation order. It was a summons. I grabbed the file and sprinted through the main gate. The desert wind felt wrong. No sound of grit, no resistance, just pressure, like running underwater. When I reached Bunker 12, the keypad blinked green before I even touched it. Inside, the air shimmered again, like heat distortion. The Echo 13 crate was gone. In its place was something new, a chair bolted to the floor with cables feeding into the walls. Beside it, a black box no bigger than a car battery hummed in sync with my pulse. A note rested on the chair seat, same handwriting as the file's new entries. "Observation complete. Assimilation begins." I backed away, but the door sealed shut behind me. The hum grew deeper, spreading through the soles of my boots. The concrete beneath my feet rippled like liquid glass, and through it, faint shapes, human or once human, pressed under the surface like insects trapped in amber. My radio flared alive one last time. A new voice, calm, bureaucratic, human, came through. "This is Colonel Faraday, Echo Command Liaison. You've been selected for long-term containment oversight. Congratulations on your service." I screamed that I wasn't part of any program. The voice didn't care. "Containment maintains through continuity. You are continuity now." The lights flickered, and every shape beneath the floor opened its eyes at once, wide, human, and glowing pale. The hum became a roar. My vision tore sideways, reality fracturing like glass being ground into dust. Then, silence. I opened my eyes again. The chair was empty. The box was gone. The door stood open. Outside, daylight cut through the desert haze. The base was pristine again. No alarms, no damage, no sign of the night before. A convoy of trucks idled by the gate. Men in clean uniforms loaded crates marked Echo 14. The sergeant I thought had vanished stepped out of the cab. He looked at me, calm, clipboard in hand. "Morning, operator. Orientations in 15 minutes. His patch matched mine. That night, I checked the duty logs again. My name was listed, same as before, except now, every other guard's name was a repeat of mine, too. Different initials, same face on every ID photo. The night of the breach began with silence, the kind that presses on your eardrums until you swear you can hear your own blood moving. I was doing my third round when Bunker 12's external sensors tripped. Not motion, not thermal, something else. The display only said flux variance undefined. I radioed control. Possible system error on 12, reading unknown flux. But before they could reply, the alarms began. Not the modern digital klaxon. This one was older. A low, pulsing tone that came from the wall speakers, deeper than anything I'd heard. The log identified it as 1953 alert sequence. That shouldn't even exist in the new system. When I reached the bunker, the outer floodlights flickered like the power grid was bleeding out. The keypad refused my override. Instead, the old intercom above it crackled to life, spitting out static, and beneath it, a faint recorded voice. A man, calm but urgent. If flux breach occurs, initiate sub-level Delta protocol. Containment priority over personnel. My hands froze. That message wasn't in any of our manuals. Then the door unlocked on its own. The blast hatch slid open a few inches, just enough to release a breath of stale metallic air, like copper dust and ozone. My flashlight cut through the dark, catching on racks of sealed ammunition crates stamped with codes I didn't recognize. Some glowed faintly under the light, a pale green shimmer leaking from their seams. At the center of the bunker, something pulsed. Not light exactly, but movement in the air, like heat distortion forming and collapsing in rhythmic waves. The Geiger counter on my belt screamed, even though it wasn't pointed at anything solid. I took a step back, but the door slammed shut behind me. The intercom clicked again, that same 1950s voice, repeating, "Containment breach confirmed. Remain in visual contact until stabilization is complete." Stabilization? Of what? I shouted into the radio, but all I heard was an echo, my own voice feeding back half a second late, distorted like someone was repeating me from the other side of glass. Then, from the corner of my eye, one of the crates began to ripple. The metal didn't bend, it shifted, like reality around it was folding in on itself. The glow intensified, flashing in bursts that synced with my heartbeat. My vision blurred, the walls seemed to stretch. And in that distortion, I saw figures. Faint, like silhouettes frozen in mid-movement. Soldiers, maybe, in old uniforms. Their outlines were made of static, their faces a blur. They were looking at me. Not with anger or warning, just recognition. Then, just as quickly, they vanished. The alarms cut off, my flashlight died, and the door reopened. When I stumbled out, the bunker lights were normal again. The crates, perfectly still. No glow, no distortion, but my Geiger counter still ticked. Not radiation, though. The rhythm wasn't random. It pulsed in sequence. Morse code. I recorded the pattern with my phone.
Later that night, I ran it through an interpreter. It translated to still active, still listening. I didn't sleep. The next morning, a team from somewhere higher up arrived before sunrise. Unmarked uniforms, no names, no patches. They locked down Bunker 12 and wiped the last 12 hours of security footage. When I tried to ask what they were doing, one of them just said, "That wasn't a breach, it was a response." And then he smiled like it meant something I'd never understand. Before I could report any of it, my access card stopped working. My ID was flagged as inactive assignment. But every night since, when I walk past the fence line, my Geiger counter still ticks, slow, steady, pulsing like a heartbeat. And when it pauses, just for a second, I swear I hear that voice again, the one from 1953, whispering through the static. Still active, still listening. What if those bunkers aren't holding weapons at all, but something that remembers being one?
2 nights later, I broke the first rule they drilled into me. I went back. No clearance, no order, no backup. Just a voice in my head whispering that word over and over. Response. The desert was silent, except for the wind dragging sand against chain link. My old Geiger counter hung at my chest, ticking like a metronome for something unseen. Every few steps, it spiked. The rhythm again. Still active, still listening. When I reached Bunker 12, the padlock wasn't new. It was replaced. Same model, but the serial number was pre-1970. Someone wanted it to look untouched, as if they'd rolled the world back to when this place was first built. I cut through it anyway. Inside, the air was colder than before, alive, like the space itself was breathing. My flashlight beam wavered, catching on something freshly etched into the bunker wall. A string of numbers and letters burned into the concrete. FLX Delta 07A, resonance initiated. I crouched to inspect it. My radio buzzed with a low hum, then words formed, faint, mechanical, layered with distortion. Operator. Detected. It wasn't a recording. It was addressing me. I froze. Who's speaking? Containment. Active. You returned. My throat tightened. I didn't hit transmit. It was pulling my voice directly from the mic input. Every breath I took came back to me, delayed, warped, almost mirrored. Then the concrete beneath the floor shuddered, not from machinery, but from below. The racks of crates trembled, some shifting like they were being dragged an inch at a time from the inside. "Why do you watch us?" the voice asked. I'm not supposed to be here." "You are here because you heard. You listened." My Geiger counter screamed again, but this time the sound bent upward, too patterned, too precise to be random. The ticking wasn't radiation anymore. It was language. Suddenly, I realized something horrifying. Each crate wasn't just holding ammunition. They were broadcasting, faint, layered frequencies overlapping into one steady pulse. I stepped closer, and that distortion filled the air again, like heat shimmer underwater. Within it, images flickered, soldiers in the old radiation suits, standing over glowing test shells, their mouths moving as if in prayer. When the distortion stabilized, I saw their faces clearly. They weren't human anymore. Their skin looked glassy, like something had fused the radiation into them, translucent veins glowing beneath the surface. They were alive, somehow, locked in whatever these crates were feeding. "We were weapons," the voice said. "We were tested. We became the test." The words hit like a physical blow. Containment wasn't about safety. It was about keeping their creation quiet. I staggered back, my flashlight shaking as the floor cracked slightly under my boots. A thin, greenish vapor hissed out, cold enough to burn. The intercom came alive again, but this time it wasn't the 1953 message. It was live. Someone up the chain was speaking. "Facility 47 to all personnel. Protocol Delta confirmed. Begin deep seal sequence. Evacuate outer zones." I bolted for the door, but it didn't budge. Outside, I heard the distant grind of steel shutters lowering across the complex. They were sealing everything. Inside, the pulse quickened. Boom, 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 boom. My Geiger counter melted into one continuous tone. The glow intensified, washing the bunker in an emerald haze. I yelled into my mic, "You'll trap me in here! Why?" The voice answered with something almost human. "Because we are waking, and we remember what they did." My ears filled with static. My flashlight died again. The last thing I saw was one of the crates splitting at the seam and a pale, translucent hand pressing through. Then nothing. When I came to, I was outside, lying in the sand. No lights, no alarms. The entire row of bunkers was gone, just a flat, scorched basin where they'd been. My phone was still recording, and when I played the audio back, I heard it again, the same ticking, the same message, still active, still listening, still awake.
3 days. That's how long it took before the world noticed. It started as background noise, strange bursts of static on ham frequencies, the kind that radio hobbyists record and upload for fun. At first, nobody connected them, just coded chirps from the desert, another Cold War echo. But then every clip ended the same way, a whisper buried in the noise. "We remember what they did." I was in isolation at Creech by then, a precautionary medical hold, they called it. They'd scrubbed every record of my assignment at the depot. When I asked to see the after-action report, the officer in charge slid a form across the table instead. "Sign this, and you'll forget there ever was a Bunker 12. I didn't sign. That night, my phone lit up even though it wasn't connected to any network. Just a single file waiting in my inbox, 47.wave. The metadata said it was recorded yesterday. The location tag? The middle of the Nevada test range, where Bunker 12 no longer existed. I pressed play, and the same ticking filled my room, that rhythm I couldn't get out of my head. Only now, between each burst, a second voice layered itself over the first. Containment breached. We are transmission. Every light in my room dimmed, flickering in perfect sync with the audio. My laptop crashed. My reflection in the screen distorted, delayed, almost like it was listening back. I called the security desk. They said I'd been restricted from all communication devices pending evaluation. When I insisted, the line went dead. By morning,
It wasn't just me hearing it. Civilian radio hosts in Utah were reporting untraceable interference. An air traffic control tower in California picked up phantom flights, non-existent flights, all tagged with call signs from 1953. And then came the message, broadcast nationwide, exactly 47 seconds long. The emergency alert system activated, not by human command, but automatically. No voice, no tones, just a low hum that modulated every few seconds, shifting frequencies like it was searching. When the sequence ended, the words appeared on every screen in black text over white static. Still active, still listening, still awake. Every analyst I knew said the same thing. It's a hack. But I'd seen what was under that bunker. It wasn't a hack. It was something learning to use the same language we used to contain it. By day 2, secure networks began shutting themselves off one by one, not because they were compromised, but because something was knocking back. The Pentagon went dark. NORAD switched to analog backups, and through it all, I kept hearing the ticking. At 0300 hours, my old badge from the depot, the one I'd left in evidence, buzzed to life on my nightstand. A red LED pulsed through the plastic, like a heartbeat. I picked it up, and the metal burned cold against my skin. You carried our name. Now carry our message. I looked at my reflection again, and for a split second, it wasn't me. It was that translucent hand I saw inside the crate, reaching forward like it wanted to connect. My phone room rang. No one was on the other end, just silence, followed by coordinates read out in my own voice. Latitude, longitude, northern Nevada. When I checked the map, the spot was blank desert again, except now there was a shape visible from satellite view. A perfect ring of scorched ground, 47 meters wide. It hadn't been there yesterday. Minutes later, my power died completely. Through the window, I could see every street light across the base flicker once and cut out. The only light left came from my badge, still pulsing. And somewhere beyond the fence line, in the distance where the mountains met the horizon, something glowed faint green under the night sky. A sound rolled across the sand, deep, rhythmic, and mechanical. Boom, 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 boom. That same pulse from the crates. They weren't gone. They'd just moved deeper. Beneath the test range, beneath the old concrete, beneath us. The air crackled again. One last transmission came through every dead speaker in the room. Containment failed. Containment relocated, initiating expansion. And then, a single sentence whispered so quietly, I thought it came from inside my head. You opened the door. Now we broadcast through you. If the transmission found a voice, and I'm the one it's using, how long before the whole world starts hearing it too?
The base is silent now. Power's still down, comms are fried, and the only light left comes from the badge on my desk, pulsing every 3 seconds like a heartbeat. I haven't slept in 2 days.
Every time I close my eyes, I hear the static again. Only now it isn't random. It's speaking, forming words. The first time I thought it was another hallucination, post-exposure stress maybe. But the timing was too precise. The badge blinked once every time the voice said my name. Sergeant Cole, maintain connection. No one's used my rank in years. I tried driving off base at dawn. The gate arm was down, but no guards were posted. Just one Humvee, engine running, headlights on. Inside, both soldiers were still, upright in their seats, eyes open, unblinking. Their radios were off, but faint static leaked from the speakers, cycling the same word over and over. Transmit. I left the truck and kept walking until the heat blurred the horizon. But that's when I saw it, a shimmer in the distance, circular, just like the blast mark I'd seen on satellite. It wasn't smoke or dust, it was light bending wrong, like the air itself had turned into a lens. As I got closer, I heard it again, that low, rhythmic thrum. Boom, 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 boom. It vibrated through the sand, through my chest, through the fillings in my teeth. I reached the edge of the ring and felt it, a charge like standing too close to a high-voltage fence. The sand wasn't burning, but every grain around my boots shimmered as if magnetized. My badge flickered faster, syncing with the pulse. I raised my camera. The screen stayed black, but faint green text appeared for less than a second. Containment reassigned, Unit Cole 47. Then the lens cracked. My radio crackled to life, a dead channel I hadn't touched since the blackout. Cole, this is command. Step away from the site. You are compromised. The voice wasn't human. It was a perfect imitation, flat and cold. Syllables too precise. Cole, you have 60 seconds to comply. Then another voice layered over it. My own voice. Don't listen to them. They're not outside the broadcast anymore. I froze. My own voice was answering itself through the static. The pulse quickened, merging with the rhythm of my heartbeat. My thoughts blurred. For a second, I couldn't tell which sound was mine, the breathing in my head or the whisper bleeding through the radio. That's when I understood. Containment wasn't about keeping something in. It was about keeping us from hearing it. And now it had found a way to speak through the only language humanity couldn't silence, its own signals. The shimmer widened into a perfect circle, bright enough to cast shadows across the sand. Inside the light, I saw shapes, not solid, not human, but outlines moving in patterns that looked deliberate. They pulsed in sync with every broadcast tower, every satellite still spinning in orbit. Every transmission since the 1950s had been feeding it, and every time we tried to erase it, we amplified the signal. I took one step forward. My badge vibrated violently, then shattered in my hand. The static roared through every frequency in my headset until one final phrase broke through. Calm, measured, and chillingly familiar. Containment complete. Transmission sustained. Then silence. The shimmer collapsed. The light vanished. And in the desert stillness, I realized the sound hadn't stopped. It had just gone underground again, back beneath the test range, back into the lines, the circuits, the data. When I got back to the base, the comms were live again, screens rebooted, but every terminal displayed the same message. Welcome to broadcast phase. They told me I'd been missing for 3 days. My footage, my voice logs, all corrupted. But I checked the depot camera feed one last time.
In the grainy black and white, I saw the shimmer return, now inside one of the bunkers. And standing at the edge of it was me. I haven't reported back since. Now when I hear static on the radio, I don't change the channel anymore. Because if it's already using our networks, our airwaves, our minds, the only thing worse than hearing it is what happens when it stops. If you ever catch a signal that repeats exactly 47 times before fading, don't record it. Don't reply. It means it's still looking for someone to answer.